All right, here we are at the Finance Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 14th, at 7 o'clock. We're in room 21 on the second floor of Town Hall. As far as attendees go, everyone is in attendance with the exception of Kathleen Otina and Rosemary Connolly, who called in advance, and Mike Warner, who I didn't hear anything from Mike Warner, so he'll probably be here, maybe just a little running behind schedule. So we have meeting minutes draft form from October 10th. So we will review those. Reserve fund stands at $35,000. Public forum, we have nobody in attendance to ask anything that is not on the agenda. So tonight's new business, very simple meeting, very quick meeting. It's do a special town meeting recap, and then talk about fiscal 25 department budget submissions. So we have our standing old business items, and then we do not have the town administrator. I told her there was really no need for her to come to this particular meeting. We'll try to, bring her in when we need some updates from the town administrator, but, try not to burden her with coming to every single meeting. So then you see I've listed all the meetings for the rest of 2023. We're now in budget season, so we're just planning on meeting every week. All right, anybody questions with the agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move right into the previous meeting minutes from October 10th. These were emailed in advance. I don't have a lot of edits in here. I actually only have the same edit Kathleen already sent to Elizabeth on page 640. But we'll start on page 637 if anybody has any edits on that page. We're starting off 7 o'clock. We're basically talking about the warrant for special town meeting. So on page 637, which is the first page of this previous minutes, we're talking about Article 1 and Article 2. Beginning on page 637, continues on page 638. Rosemary, welcome to the meeting.
Yes, a little early.
Do you need a copy of the previous
draft.
minutes?
Yes, thank you.
And the agenda, Elizabeth has the agenda on the front too.
Thank you.
All right, so we're just taking a look at October 10th previous meeting minutes. 637, seeing no changes requested, we'll move to page 638. So here on this page, we're talking about Article 3, and we talk about Article 4, and basically start in Article 5 on page 638. So very good write-up of all the discussions we had on each one of these warrant articles. As you recall, we didn't have a lot of time to spend, having not received the warrant in too much time that we could, peruse it for a couple of meetings. This was our one and only opportunity to make recommendations for a town meeting. So, page 638, anybody have anything that they would like to edit on that page? Seeing none, we'll move to 639. So we'll continue on our discussion on Article 5. We move into Article 6, Article 7, and Article 8, which also continues on the following page. So again, I reviewed all of the dialogue that Elizabeth has in here from the meeting, and I couldn't find anything that needed to be, in my mind, edited.
And there's something about Sean Kane's response that's missing. Mr. Kane responded that there would be a regional build. That he would, the question was asked, did you contact people in Hampton on the regional build? And he said no, because it hasn't failed yet, essentially. And that was on the recording too as well.
Right.
Yep, so that's out of it. And I really think that's an important piece of that, due to the fact that it shows that there was
Well, do you think the minutes reflect the spirit of the conversation?
Uh,
Don't forget, we also now, like you said, have the recordings for people to refer back
I
to.
think that that's an important thing to add, that was an intent, and that the regional build, because we might be looking at a regional build for the elementary schools, as they're as old as this middle school, and that if there was it'll show that there was some thought and work in trying to do a regional, but this one wasn't particularly, that there had been, I do think it's an important thing to add.
How would you like to add it?
Well, do you want to table it and go back to the minutes, or does anybody
No,
remember
I'd really
it?
rather not.
Well,
What I'd like to see happen is if somebody has some question on the meeting minutes, for them to prepare an alternative sentence and bring it to the meeting. That's what I'd
okay,
really
here's
like
the
to.
alternative sentence. Mr. King states, Ms. Conley asks.
Where do you want to put it? Where are we talking? Are we on page 638?
Yes, we are at 638. Hold on a second. Admitted that there's much discussion that he's responsible for building the new building. She questioned anyone in the room if they were aware of a cheaper option. Mr. Kane stated that we could possibly do a regional build. Ms. Conley asked if anybody had reached out to Hanson and if anyone was amenable to Hanson. Mr. King gave no response. Or, no response was given.
Did you get that? No. All right.
That's what you wanted to say?
Yes.
I thought you were reading from it.
Oh, I thought you were reading from it too.
Yeah, it's because exactly what was said. Let's lay it on.
All right, so the discussion is at the top of page 639.
Well, actually, asked, are we sure that would be? He had no numbers, essentially. But yes, just say what I just said, I guess.
Where do you want to put it, is what the question is.
I asked, question anyone in the
Where
room
what
if there was a
page
cheaper
are you on,
option.
please? In what paragraph?
640.
Well, we haven't got to 640 yet.
Oh, aren't you at 640?
No.
Oh, it was 639.
Okay.
Guys,
Anything on
don't
639?
worry, you get rid of me after this, okay?
Get rid of you?
I gotta go to concert, rock and roll.
Oh, I thought, yeah, I thought you were going to miss the meeting.
I
Not-
was too, but he said I could miss this section and get his later.
Oh, okay. This should be a brief meeting anyway, so, well, it was until you started. I'd strike that from the meeting minutes, but I can't. It's all
I heard that
recorded.
you say nice things. I heard that you say nice things about me when I'm not there. So
Well, I
forgive you
do.
when I'm here.
I try to say nice things when you're here, too.
We haven't
hard.
finished 6:30.
Only nice things about it.
We're on 639. We haven't
Yeah.
finished, yeah. Anybody else?
You
639.
have to be dressed up like a motorcycle guy to things.
All right, so we're going to accept 639 as printed. Now, Rosemary, let's go to page 640, and you tell us
Thank
which
you.
paragraph we're looking at.
Well, I'm going to let everybody review and see if they have anything before that. Anybody?
All right, so the only changes, these were suggested by Kathleen Otina by email, that just the spelling of Mike Carroll on the second to last paragraph, past halfway through, Mike Carroll's name is listed twice. He just needs 2 R's and 2 L's. We were stingy with the consonants. So that's the only edit that I have on page 640. Now, anybody else? Anything? Rosemary.
Thank you. We're going down Article 13, right after if there was a cheaper, we're aware of a cheaper option.
Okay.
And Mr. Kane stated we could look into a regional build with Hanson.
I think what he said was there was a discussion about a regional build in the past. I think that was the exact wording.
And I asked, is Hanson aware of, and then I asked, is Hanson aware that you're planning a regional build with this? He said, and what makes it cheaper? Do you have any numbers? And he stated, no, we won't be doing that unless it fails, essentially.
I don't really remember him saying that.
Yes, I can go back and look at it. He did say he wasn't, that he didn't want to answer the question beyond that. He did say, this is only if it fails, essentially. It was, I think we can go listen to the thing, but...
Yeah, I don't remember anything about if it fails.
Okay.
Maybe. You might be right.
I think he said, to the point they have no concrete information and they can't move forward until it, you know what I mean?
Until it
Unless
fails.
this fails.
Unless it fails. Okay.
Which doesn't make sense.
All right, do you want to incorporate that sentence?
Yes, that's the exact sentence I would like to incorporate.
Okay.
Say it one more time.
The way
Into
you
the
said it.
recorder.
He had no concrete numbers or information, and that they weren't going to look into it unless it failed.
Okay. Good with that? Everybody good with that? All right. Thank you, Rosemary.
You're very welcome.
I agree that it's an important point, and it should be reflected in the meeting minutes, so.
Only because we could look into it now before it even goes into a building option, and we've paid $1 million and done things for the next 3 buildings that are coming up for the future. It
Excellent.
is a cheaper option.
All right, any other changes proposed for page 640? On page 641, we continue the discussion on Article 13. So there was quite a lot of discussion, obviously, on Article 13. And then we go to 14, 15, and that would be exhausting the special town meeting warrant. We then, on the page, bottom of 641, we talk about old business. Anybody have anything that they would like to change on page 641? John?
I just want a clarification. In the first paragraph, Ms. Conley was under the impression the town was switching to a different financial system to in debt.
Oh, debt
We-
services, rolling debt, that's right. That was something too.
Where
page you talking
he would
about?
be letting
Middle of
this
paragraph
simmer
1.
off and then borrowing.
No, that's it. We would not be taking, I think maybe, it might have been me poorly articulating it, not the minutes. So basically, I believe I was trying to express what was recommended by the Collins Capital.
Mm-hmm.
We were changing over to the recommendations of the Collins Capital, where we had proper debt service amounts, and we weren't paying capital through our levy.
It's just the sentence
Yeah,
was a little.
it was me, not you.
Do you want me to take that out? Or?
Yeah, you want to take that out and just say we were taking. I thought we were switching over to the recommendations of the Collins Capital.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, John and
Thank you, Joe.
Rosemary, and Elizabeth now has the wording corrected. So anything on 14, 15, or the discussion of old business? I like how you put your little side note.
Side note's
Is
cool.
that allowed?
For the meeting minutes, I don't think so.
You want me to take that out?
Side note.
I don't think the meeting minutes should reflect editorials, but
What was the editorial?
yeah, I
She has the best editorials.
I totally agree with you, but I don't think there's a place in the meeting minutes for it. Maybe like a amendment at the
Mine's
end.
going to be on my podcast.
There you go.
Okay, I've decided to do the podcast for
We're
it.
not done with the minutes, though.
That's correct. We can't start the podcast until we get to page 642. All right, anything on 641 further? Okay, 642, yep, we're still into old business, and then we move into other business, and the meeting is adjourned at 9:45. Elizabeth, I like what you did in the meeting minutes as well, to say that the meeting can be heard in its entirety on YouTube. That's good.
Uh-huh.
That will be allowed. All right, anybody else? 642?
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yes,
That's pretty minimal changes for such a long meeting.
that is another job well done.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I will now entertain a motion then to accept the October 10th, 2023 meeting minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Al abstains due to his absence in that meeting. Okay, excellent. Now we go back to our agenda. We don't have the meeting minutes from October 30th. That was, as you know, the special town meeting because Elizabeth didn't have that new recorder. Now she has. So I suspect we'll have the November 14th meeting minutes along with special town meeting at our next meeting to approve. So, new business special town meeting recap. Again, I want to try to keep this meeting brief. If anybody wants to
Talking to you.
talking about anything that happened at the special town meeting, then go ahead, Rosemary. What?
Sean Kane's graph.
The graph. Oh, yes. I know you had problems with it.
Well, I don't know why it was. It was propaganda in the middle of a meeting. I don't
Well,
know why
actually,
it was
someone took
allowed.
exception to it, too. Someone from the floor took it.
I think everybody. I think everyone has talked to it. I think I've sat at a ton of different parties and events that are like, that thing was bullshit. Nothing starts the next year. That's not how people, like normal citizens, recognized that it didn't include the 4 years before. You don't pay right away. That it literally made it sound like you're going to pay the next year. Veterans Day, I spent a lot of time, it was at a veterans party, and we had little old men that were scared to death that they're, I don't know what to do now, I don't know how to get this money in 1 year. I'm like, it's okay. I said it didn't incorporate two different aspects. One, that we should be meeting the MBTA Community Act, so we're going to have more hands to carry that debt than the ones that are represented there, so it shouldn't be that much. So in 4 years, if we should be following, unless we're going to end up like Newton, and if you want to follow, I'm not Newton, Canton, which did not meet it and is now having to give back money, and I think Newton is also in the same position. Very expensive alternative. We shouldn't be doing that. So unless they're planning on really making some bad financial mistakes, that graph is irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know.
I just think it was just used for, backup for the people who wanted to say no. You know what I mean?
It's propaganda.
It was a visual. Yes.
It was propaganda.
It was like being at the drive-in, right? Watching a movie and then seeing French fries.
And I think it was scary. It was like,
It's called subliminal advertising.
it was subliminal, but I don't know if that should have been allowed.
So, yeah, well, so that's a good question. Why was it allowed? Who allowed that?
Right. Well, the town moderator allowed it.
Yeah.
He had the opportunity to disallow it when that person took
Well,
exception to
I
it.
think my bigger problem is, did the taxpayer pay for their own propaganda? Did we pay for that?
Of course you did.
That's not appropriate to have a selectman, and I'm putting this on the meeting, I'd like this written in, any selectman to have a slush fund of usage of supposed experts to push forward an agenda. That is a poor use, that's an abuse of public trust. And that's the word public trust should mean something. So it's not only the trust, it's the money that was used to do that. I think that person should pay for it out of their own pocket.
Elizabeth, you getting this? Because at the next meeting, when we have to draft meeting minutes, and this isn't included, we're going to be having
And I was thinking about missing that one.
So if I can just go back on Rosemary, just to look. So when you talk about we're talking MBTA.
Yeah,
Are you hoping? Are we hoping that by adopting what is out there that there'll be money coming, but also there'll be more residents in town, more growth to help pay for this?
by law is a law. It's not something we're going to be allowed to.
But-
And if we don't adopt it, we're going to lose millions of dollars.
Yeah. So
the stick of the carrot. thing, right?
besides the possibility loss of money, is it looked at too as like we're going to have more growth, more people in town, more people to be paying
So
these bills.
it is depending on how we build, which should be done in a smart way. That is true. We should see, because when that was broken out per property and amount and per people. So that would be broken out that way. There could be an argument made, of course, that those people would cost in other ways, but that wasn't included in that graph, and that graph was debt per household. So that graph would be inaccurate. Now, of course, we could have a discussion beyond that. That would be a reasonable discussion to have.
Right, but just for the purpose of bringing it back to the finance committee, right? We have a vested interest in the economic implications of not doing what we're supposed to do. However, the policy decision is that of the Board of Selectmen.
Actually, the policy decision, a law is not a policy decision. And that's kind of what's been concerning me when I see that the Barrett's group who we've hired is not I don't know what instructions have been given, but it's very clear it's supposed to be a walk to the MBTA, and some of the stuff is way up in the center of town, the majority of it, and even beyond. It seems as if, and I'm about, the minutes weren't published for 6 months, and I had to pull teeth to even get them. There was no, those things are concerning.
They are.
And so they're not really being forthcoming about how they're handling this MBTA period.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I
the
think
minutes from what committee?
the planning board.
Planning board.
Planning board.
Okay.
So I do think that people need to, we need to have an open and really large discussion. If we decide to be a community that doesn't adopt that has to be done openly.
Okay,
And,
let me just suggest this, Rosemary, we are meeting jointly with the Board of Selectmen on the 5th of December. Could you prepare a little presentation that shows your concern based on the financial impact that the Finance Committee, has?
I will talk to
If
the
we're not
president of
doing
the
what we're
state that I've been talking to and see if he can, show me advantages and disadvantages financially to not
Yeah.
doing this, and what the objective of this law is. Yes, 25th. No, what?
The 5th of
December
December.
5th.
Oh, the 5th.
Right now, it's not, they're meeting tonight to set that date, but I asked
You had it in.
Mary
penciled
Beth
in.
to kind of give us that
Just a little
date.
reflection. The 10 million, 13 million last year that we did for the MBTA, 10 million of that is reimbursable to the state. If we do not meet the MBTA Community Act, we will have to give that 10 million back, or we will not have that 10 million. And
All right, so that's a
small.
very legitimate financial
And that's not
concern.
just one. There's other ones. It's just one of them.
All right, can you make a summary for that meeting?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion on that? Okay. So anything further to discuss from the special town meeting recap? Like I said, our recommendations were made. I think we spent a lot of time, good discussions coming to our recommendations. And even the fact that they weren't unanimous, I think the taxpayers were given a pretty good reason why the votes weren't unanimous. So thank you to all who participated and made that something for the taxpayers to better understand before they made their minds up. So let's move on then to fiscal 25 department budget submissions. So everybody should have gotten a flurry of emails in the last couple of days.
Yes, and I will say that was amazing. Absolutely, I've never seen them come in like that.
Well, thank Mary Beth.
What's the difference?
Well, I'll tell you.
What's different this year?
Huh. Well, here is
Note, John laughed.
part of that is again, we always ask for, well, what was the budget submission cover letter like? Right. So I think if you looked into those budgets, if you read down, you saw what Mary Beth sent out, so that everybody's on the same page. The Finance Committee knows what each department was asked. So specifically, this year, please use a 2.5% increase for a department head salary increase, and please level fund all other expenses in your budget. So obviously, now there's some parameters for each department to bring to the table.
There you go, starting point.
So
There's a starting.
a level fund or level service?
It says level fund right here in black on white.
Okay. Nobody else got phone calls from their people? Nobody?
Nope.
Okay.
I have
So-
no people.
Let's see what happens. So here's the only thing I want to say.
Level fund with inflation. Level service, I would say. But how could you level fund with inflation? You would decrease service.
It's going to be interpreted differently by each person, I think. But I'm just saying.
Well, I
Now
got
we know
calls
what
from
was in
Warren.
the.
At least,
I don't know
yeah,
why.
at least now when,
Yelled at by like
what-
5 different people.
if and when we get a phone call or when they come in, at least now we'll know what they saw.
Right.
Whereas in the past, everybody seemed to be on way different pages.
And I think that's a good question, right?
Yeah.
So when we prepare for these budget meetings, what we should be doing is going and looking at the budget for that department. Say for next week, we have police and veteran services. Each one of us should download or print out a copy of the budget for the police and the budget for the veteran services. Take a look at it. Look at if it falls within this parameter of the budget mailing. And then do you have questions that are the same for each department? Write them down, and that way it's always best if the Finance Committee has the budget well in advance enough So we're not asking questions based on what we don't have, right?
Right.
So nobody can say we don't have the budgets early enough to do our due diligence, right? Rosemary.
If somebody, because I thought it was 2% per, Madden's recommendations were, don't go over the 2% and don't go over the 5% for the, whatever that was. If it is level service, that means that we're giving them the same amount as last year, right? The same amount except for salaries. Is there anything we are purchasing now? Cars, gas, heat, anything that is the same price as it was last year? Can you tell me something?
Pretty much it is the same.
No, it isn't now.
It
It
is.
might be even cheaper now.
I don't think it is
Than last
cheaper.
year.
Some electricity.
So I think the idea is that we're going to be cash strapped, right? Unless we want to go to an override. I think the idea is that we're supposed to be cutting budgets, not.
Okay, so this
Right.
is, so understand that this is a cut of a
It is.
budget.
To me,
So
that's what,
level service would be a cut in a budget.
a level
cut.
fund is even a bigger cut.
I mean,
Wouldn't you agree?
a
Level
level.
fund is-
I'm sorry, a level fund. You're right. Excuse me. A level fund with things costing more means
be a
that
cut.
they're being cut.
Then
So I just
find
want people to
find
know
money
that.
from something
Find
else
money
that
from
you
somewhere
can
else,
that you
Yeah.
can
So
balance
when
your
we're
budget.
doing this, remember, we just grew different departments. We just grew different departments at the last town meeting. We just grew IT. We just grew other.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
this is why I said no
This is
to
what-
to that, because would we choose to pull back on all these other departments and grow that department? That's why I said you can't watch how things grow and shrink. So just to
And we're
be
just, and
aware.
we're growing a pretty big middle school, which is
So it sounds like
a lot
you
of
have-
people are
That's a
concerned.
different budget.
No,
That's how that service works.
here. I think we need to be mindful going forward the next couple of years, policymakers, people who bargain contracts, of the impact that all this is going to have on these fixed income seniors and people. I spoke to plenty in my neighborhood, saw how close the vote was. I think everybody should be thinking carefully the next couple of years on how we spend our money.
Oh,
Even
I
the 2.5%,
agree.
in my mind, throw it.
Make it one.
Make it two.
Make it two.
Make it one.
Yeah.
Make it zero.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Let's-
I'm not
And again, the
disagreeing.
negotiators, people who negotiate with the unions.
So you are to me the really great at that. You're our eagle eyes on that. You're like the expert on that in this group because you've cut. I think so.
Well-
I'm not good at that.
No, I would concur.
I mean that you caught the negotiations with the golden umbrellas. You've been on top of those
So, yeah,
more
so
than
they-
anybody. So I would refer to you for that particular aspect. But in terms of when a town goes to town meeting, their annual, they're making a decision on how we grow. Right? They're saying, hey, would they choose, hi, I'd like to grow IT at the expense of these things. We kind of are subverting that choice. That's why I would
So,
like to.
right, you're taking one growth a little bit out of context, which it was a grant, right? I mean, obviously there's some.
The money's gone until they pay it back.
I know. I know. It's going to have a financial impact on the department. I'm just saying, it was presented to town meeting, special town meeting, as a.
Okay, one of them, but there's a series of things that
Alright,
happen.
so,
One was
questions,
the salary.
questions for departments. Keep that in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good to get it out here in an open discussion, but try to formulate your questions to the department heads so we can get.
What is the cut if you level service?
Great question,
Yeah.
right? So, police next week, veteran services. Tell me, how's that going to affect your budget? By level funding your expense line, how's that going to affect? What's that going to mean? We've had these discussions
Similar
with
to
budget
this,
managers
we did
before.
this exercise a
Yeah.
couple of years ago.
We said how
Yeah.
can you
Give us a scenario. What
if you
will
have a
happen?
4% cut in your budget, what's going first,
Yeah.
right? And
So
usually they
essentially,
say
this is a 2% cut, understand, because you regularly have well, not quite 2 because you've got the salary. So I would say, depending on how much your salary is how much would you average out a salary to be?
Yeah. And I understand, the salaries
25% of a budget would probably be salaries, right? So this would
Yeah.
be,
generally.
so it's say, Matt, this is a 1 point, 7%.
Some of this growth is supposed to help save us money, like the assessor, right? Somebody take away from Patriot Property, the
was a
facilities
discussion.
manager, somehow we're supposed to be seeing
said
some
she had
savings.
a conversation with
Hopefully
her.
we will be able to recognize some savings.
I agree with that. So that contract is 3 years, right? So 2 years done, should have a year, because I had a talk with her. I said, I understand that I was really excited about your skill set. She is excited and hoping to take on some of those, handling her own 504s, handling that. That was my impression from our conversation. She seems quite confident.
Awesome.
So that's a hopeful. Now,
Yeah.
is that my decision? No, that can only be a request to the
No.
Board of Assessors on how we would handle that. But that would be the hope that we would.
And that was some of the discussion when we talked about bringing on a very well qualified person to
And
get
she
pay
is.
them very well with the board when they were here.
Right.
That was discussed. I remember that being discussed as a
She's up
hopeful
here.
thing.
So a great example of what a liaison to the department's head should be doing, having a conversation with the department head, especially a new one, and say, how can we work together to meet some of the expectations and some of the,
Yeah. There are 2 upcoming laws that pertain to her department.
Right.
She was well versed on both of them.
So talk about strategic planning, talk about the future. The whole idea of this exercise right now is to formulate questions in your mind and hopefully get them down on paper. So when we come back next week and start meeting with budget managers, we have questions that they can answer, right? So that's really the only reason we're having this discussion, really. So,
It's a very well written letter.
all right. Anything else for the budget submissions? Okay, so meeting recording status. So Elizabeth has been forwarding our recordings, and they are uploaded on YouTube. I actually listened to the entirety of our discussion about before the special town meeting, that one we just approved the minutes for. I think the discussions were perfectly germane to every question. I think we kind of, and although Mary Beth was a little overwhelmed by the process, I think we prepared her more for town meeting by having those difficult discussions in this room, really.
Since they did happen on the floor.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
That
right.
would be what the citizens would have asked about.
So, like I said, I think that's what we should be doing. So, posting approved minutes, I still think that somebody from the town, one of these departments, should be able to post our meeting minutes. I think it's ridiculous that we still haven't got that, but most likely Elizabeth is going to learn how to do it and post the meeting minutes on next to our agendas, so people don't have to listen to the entire recording to get the meeting minutes, which we just approved. This is less time than listening to that entire 2.5 hour
Yeah.
conversation.
agree, but-
Because the people can't even know who the people are speaking either. You know what I mean? There's no context. So
Yeah, sometimes they confuse our voices too.
yeah. Only when there's a snide comment, they definitely know it's coming from this end of the table. All right, so that's it for that. Subcommittee reports. Capital Committee, Kathleen's not here. Regional School District Agreement Amendment Committee, again, Kathleen is not here to give a report. And for the Middle School Building Committee, I imagine they're going to be moving right ahead now. For the Public Works Department Building Committee, I can just tell you that we haven't met yet, because the way that the funding was applied at the special town meeting, there actually has to be a special legislation act in order to get that money. It's a 3 to 4 week process. So our committee is going to be kind of hampered by that. We probably will meet in the next 2 weeks, though, to talk about where we are. So
Yeah. Does that stall the project at all?
it does a little bit. So there's some discussion on, if the contractor is willing to delay without cost, it would obviously help the DPW to be able to work through the winter in the building instead of being, out on the street having the building demolished. But I think the fire chief, Kathleen and I toured the fire station with the chief, and they talked about having provisions for the DPW. Well, it's a pretty good size area outside of the armory that the DPW can use. There's a lot of room on the back side of the armory. I don't know if you're familiar, but the DPW can park all their vehicles there, and they're going to actually use the inside of the armory. The plan is to use the inside of the armory to do vehicle maintenance.
Yeah,
while they're out of the other
right,
building.
because the armory, because it was kind of prepped over the last couple of years. It's
Yeah.
been brought
So-
back to life.
And then, we have a lot of, the fire chief and the fire department has developed a lot of relationships with, like, emergency response, teams in Massachusetts teams
Yeah.
that have used the armory to store some vehicles. They're now telling them that you're going to have to take them back for a little while till we get the DPW done, and that will free up the space for them.
good,
too.
good.
So, what's with your
You
face?
can't tell they have a face on the audio. Yes, I am making a face. And you know why I'm making a face, so
No,
Well,
I don't.
Next year it's going to be video recordings.
Yeah.
oh, I'm in trouble.
It's going to be audio only with your face.
Oh.
We'll make up the little placards with the faces.
Okay, I am making
All you.
All right.
We'll all hold up the same
Do you
face.
want to explain your face or not?
I will explain my face. My face pertains to when anybody uses, it was Plymouth County,
Yeah.
and we are in the furthest part of Plymouth County. We are not a central place. We are not the best place to be storing things if you're trying to be central. As it has been said in the past, it is inaccurate. Brockton is not included in the Plymouth County group, so not all of Plymouth. So it basically goes all the way down, and someplace in, like, say, Kingston would be a better place than us. But we are giving this away without cost, and we are paying for the roof, and we're paying for all these different things. And I think that taxpayers should be aware of that, and that maybe we should be seeking, if people are invited back, also.
Well, maybe that's a good time to do it, right?
Next
Next
week?
week, while they're out, right? Say, hey, you're welcome to come back, but
Yeah.
could you chip in a little?
Yeah, chip in a little. Now, the services they
Because you
provide-
brought that up. I remember you brought that up before.
How many years ago? Yeah, I did.
That was your 3 year ago face.
That was my 3 year ago.
Oh.
It takes about 3 years for anything to do. Now, I also want to say that these things are great services if there are emergencies, but we don't tend to be the ones who have the emergencies. There are people that are just as eligible, and I think if it does go somewhere else, I think we should be honorable and offer to pay a fee for their storage, just as other towns should be offering us. That's all.
Yeah, okay. So, I guess one of the things that you got to consider too is the fact that because we're allowing them to store stuff, we avail ourselves to the equipment should we need it, right? That has always been what I've heard.
Yes.
Yes.
That has been
That's
the
so romantic, but we avail ourselves to that equipment because because we are part of Plymouth County, and we pay into
whether
that
it's
already.
whether it was centrally located or not. If we needed it, it would still
Right.
come here.
It would
It just
still
might
come-
get.
So-
It's
It'll take a little longer to come
Yeah,
from
it'll take
Kingston.
another 5 minutes. 5 minutes and not having to pay for a roof.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to need the roof anyway, right?
We could also figure out. I mean, do we?
Well,
I mean,
So-
we need it at the
so,
middle.
again,
Perfect
That's
opportunity
that's
question.
a fair ask.
Fire chief.
Thank you.
it's a fair ask.
Let's get that question.
I am also saying these are valuable things. I don't want to not, but we do all pay into this. And I also said if they found a better central location that actually met the ideal,
We would have a problem with paying our share.
I think we should be
Correct.
honorable and also pay our share. And the ask is the same for other towns to pay their share.
Okay,
That's all.
good point. Excellent. Okay, so that is the report of my Public Works Department Building Committee. I will certainly have more when we meet again. As far as the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District audit, I think that's something that has been initiated. Hopefully, we hear that it's in progress soon, and we could take it off our agenda that's been here for 4 years, 5 years,
There
6
was
years.
a question on why it was only capital, and that was not answered. Could we?
Why it was only capital?
The audit is
I
only
thought
capital?
I thought capital was just added in as
No,
something else.
Only capital so far that I remember. Could we get a list of what that audit is before we take it off and know what they're auditing?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you. What was the
that's
question?
right. Audit is a very
I want to see
I'll put
how
that on
broad
my
that is.
to-do.
yeah. Because I thought I had heard read something about they were just adding capital as and it costed more because they were adding in the capital audit.
We made only a capital in Whitman. Hanson had it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, we'll ask that from our
What
town
we said at the
administrator.
last meeting.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions on the audit? On old business? Anything I missed in old business? Okay, in other business communications, there were none in the mailbox. Town administrator, as I said, I met with her very briefly before this meeting. Nothing to report other than that we would like to get the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen on December the 5th, which you see is right in the middle of our meeting schedule. So, just talking about the schedule since we're into it. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 departments have now been notified about the upcoming meetings.
I took pictures of
Give me the one back that it says how they responded. Oh, oh yeah, here it is, sorry. So, we have confirmed with Veteran Services, we have confirmed with Treasurer Collector, we have confirmed with Police, we have confirmed with the Assessor, we have confirmed with Fire, and we have confirmed with the Building Department. So the only one that's hasn't been notified 30 days in advance, the Appeals Board, we're just waiting. John found the email for John Goldrosen, so that'll go out in the morning. But again, we're not meeting with that department until December 12th. So the idea is get the notices out at least 30 days in advance, get the confirmation that they are accepting that date. If not, then we have to get an amended date. So that's why I keep this master sheet. So if in fact, as a department liaison, you want to do the mailing, again, I'm leaving it totally up to you. You have to do it 31 days or sooner, because I do it on the 30th day. That's all.
Thank you.
We have to give these people some time, to respond. So, like I said, I don't mind. I have a list of things to do that says when I need to get these emails out to these departments. So, I have no problem continuing to do that. So the next two will be for December 19th. That will go out this coming up weekend. Will be the heavy tree division of the DPW and the DPW water sewer, which will be the December 19th meeting. So again, November 19th, got to get that meeting notice out. John.
When was the last schedule put out? The reason I ask is because
October 12th at 4:33 a.m. is when I printed it.
and at that
can tell by
point,
the
did
time.
you remove Tuesday, December, whatever, which has a Whitman Hanson budget presentation?
Nope, December 12th is still listed. That's when we have Whitman Hanson and the Appeals Board.
Okay.
Yeah. Why do you think it was taken out?
Well, you didn't mention that people had agreed to coming from Whitman Hanson to discuss their expectations for their budget.
No, it's just like any other department. We tell them when we want them here. If they choose not to come, that's on them, right?
Subcommittee hasn't even met.
Just the thing. I remember last year, the superintendent came and said, I'll come and talk to you guys, but, I don't have this, I don't have
Yeah.
that.
Kinda like when we do social vote
Easy enough for him to pull a budget together.
Yeah, he can pull up, yeah.
It should be. at least.
Should be.
All right, so we expect,
We expect him to accept that date,
yeah,
but it just went out this morning, so.
yeah, okay. That's fine.
Good question. Because it does say Whitman Hanson budget presentation, so it sounds a little more formal, but it's just another department ask. I didn't write it that way, so I would have just put Whitman Hanson Regional School District there, just because they're just another department. Just happen to be the one that costs the most. That's all. Good question, though. All right, so that
For
brings
Veteran
us.
Services, the new HERO Act is a revision of 115, 115A. So that's going to change next year's budget. They're going to make the same adjustments that Maureen Haley just made. So you're going to have to work with her because that's a. So do you want me to email you that?
Yes,
New
please.
proposed. It's not voted in, but it looks. And it has a lot of support, so it most likely will go through. So I will email you that.
That'd be good, Ralph. That we can have a discussion with
And she's aware of it because she brought it up.
What's that, Veteran Services?
the veteran service. That
And that's a new person.
We'll be meeting November 21st.
Yeah, the new person is really smart. She was already in Abington doing this, so.
Right.
So again, if you think you want to reach out to your
Well,
department,
what's a good email for you?
Hmm?
What's a good email for you?
I'll give you my personal one.
Okay, go ahead.
R as in Robert,
these
N as
are
in Mary,
recorded.
C as in cat, F as in Frank, G as in George, at AOL.
Ralph, do you have any problem with anybody getting your email? This meeting is recorded. Okay.
RMCFG, right?
At AOL.com.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for getting them
Shows
updated
how
on
long
that.
I've had it because you don't find too many AOL.
No, you don't. It's like
They're on.
somebody wants to buy
Yeah,
it.
being my MSN, yeah, but
You still have that one?
I still have my MSN. Yeah.
I still had Prodigy till about 6 years ago.
AOL takes it though.
All right. So with that, I think exhausts the agenda. Unless there's anything that somebody would like to bring up under new business.
I think I ended up.
Yes.
Is there a podcast discussion happening? No.
Podcast.
Sure.
Elizabeth's podcast.
Oh, you have a podcast?
I hope she does.
We intend to start one, yeah.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, when we have some
you know
news,
anything
please share.
Pretty sure it was a good idea, right?
Darn it.
Good. Excellent.
All right, all right.
We'll be looking forward to it.
He doesn't want to be my sounding board anymore.
All right. So then I will certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? It's unanimous.
If
Look at that. We got us out of here
If-
before 8 o'clock.